instant.
Yeah, it's just giving your carries free gold, essentially, like giving them these extra items that they normally wouldn't have. The Invoker, as we're talking about, this is very typical of Infamous. I mean, Alone is an incredible Invoker player. Um, Also decent against the Monkey King. I don't think that this is like necessarily a Monkey King core. We've been seeing Monkey King a lot of times in the 4 position if needed. But if they decide to run it as a core, Jingu obviously being purgeable there by Tornado is a fantastic counter. But we'll see what D2 Hustlers respond with. I mean, heroes like Lina is still available. They have Void Spirit. Okay, and there's the Kunkka, of course, which still pretty strong in lane against the Invoker. Just farms, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, and of course they had to pick their 5 here, and this is another thing that even though teams are still not as comfortable, I want to say, as teams that do get that second pick in the first game, you want to hide your safe laner as much as you can because you don't really have that kind of flexibility to just give it away. And I think now we don't know what this Monkey King is going to be until they're guaranteed to be happy with that lane. Of course, like you said, we could still see Flea on that Monkey King. It's what he's been playing the past few days. I'm sure he's exactly comfortable with it. And Silencer is also a pretty good pickup.
That's a good
This is
counter
another just
here.
infamous. I mean, not only does it break up both the Monkey King and the Pangoliers kind of slow initiation, but you're doubling down on your team fight. Of course, now there is a pretty massive target on that Silencer's head. He's going to be the one that both that Monkey King and Pangolier are going to gun for in the beginning of these fights. But it's so obnoxious, especially for the Abaddon, because unless you get a little bit of that gold lead, you
Yeah.
don't inherently have those dispels. You need those lotuses, you need those force staffs, and if you don't have them, well, unfortunately, Infamous just have this tight game, and if they're able to play around that arena cooldown, which is really the only thing their lineup is bound by, they can just continuously make these plays pretty much for free.
Man, it feels so bad playing a Batten into Silencer because all you want to do is just aphotic shield your allies, and typically you rely on borrowed time to get yourself out of CC, but Silencer is just like, nope, you don't get to do anything. So like these fight initiations from Infamous become that much more easy to do, and the Abaddon just has to kind of look from behind. Or he has to like walk in and take damage to trigger the borrowed time in hopes of like being able to save his allies. So it puts him in a really bad position. And like you said, you have to then itemize for some form of a dispel, either a Lotus Orb or a Yule Scepter, but you really do need Glimmer Capes and Force Staffs this game as well. So it puts Abaddon in a really bad space. So we'll see what they could do here on the side of D2 Hustlers for that. But they've still got their last pick. Like you said, the safe lane, they've been hiding it. Both teams. Actually, it looks like Infamous anticipating that it is a safe lane monkey as they go ahead and ban out the Legion Commander and potentially another offlane hero here. But it is just a good Legion game if they wanted to pick it, so it might just be covering their own back on that one, I guess.
Yeah, and really, it's in the same breath as Mars and Tidehunter that we do see that Legion Commander. But saw so many games yesterday where it was just simply Mars versus LC, and of course, you never really want to lead onto the Mars just because it is a little bit annoying to burst him. But we've seen some incredibly snowballed LCs that just kind of get out of control, and that is that hero that suddenly shows up in a side lane and randomly kills alone, and then it just feels horrible for you. But at the same time, I think if D2 want to, they've definitely set up this Monkey King in the safe lane. I think that's where the Abaddon does feel good in the lane versus the Mars. Of course, you don't have that secondary stun coming from your 4, assuming it's going to be that Keeper of Light in that position. So as soon as that spear lands, immediately aphotic shield him, and then you never really have that easy play. So the Abaddon, although it did get pretty hard countered, they didn't see the 5 because Infamous are being a little bit tricky. I think that lane is still going to go pretty well for them. And we've also seen Yuma, I think, not get punished a lot. I think that's where Alone is really going to be a pretty critical playmaker on that Infamous side, because if Yuma does get a little bit too big, every single time he gets that Echo Saber around that 11, 12-minute mark, and then he's done farming. He just starts rotating around the map and he gives all that farm to someone else. Or they switch it up and we see the PA for what feels like the 6th time out of 8 games, because this PA hero is really coming in at full force. Everyone is starting to really highly value, especially you look at Coddle, you look at Silencer, and you look at Invoker. Those are very, very
This
squishy
is a
targets.
really good PA game. This is a
Yeah.
super good PA game. It's one of my favorite heroes like to see it in these games. Like I'm a Mars player, and Mars is so rough against Phantom Assassin. It's just a miserable lane experience, and then you get 6 and you just like can't arena the hero. So it's a safe lane, and then on top of it, you're against, like you said, 3 really squishy heroes that PA loves to play against. Troll Warlord, the final pick here for Infamous. This one I'm not 100% sold on. It is just a strong lane hero, and I think the idea here is they want to just get off to a quick start and play off of like you said, the alacrity bonus he's going to be getting from the Mars here. Um, but I don't really see it coming out ahead against this Phantom Assassin.
Well, and it's the same benefit of second pick. When they pick up the Abaddon, you pick up the Silencer. When you see the PA, you know that that first two pickup from D2 is now going to be their off lane. So I think they go for those heroes knowing that it's going to be that double melee lane. It's the most typical chance to really pick up this troll. And you are playing on the idea that if Yuma goes in before he's ready, if he actually commits to one of these kills, Lumiere can just stick on top of him, but that's where you are playing versus the Abaddon, you are playing versus, I think, all the disables coming in from the Pango that I'm a little bit concerned. Of course, if Infamous can start the fight, everything is kind of out the window. If D2 Hustlers aren't ready for those engagements and the troll does get started, then it is very difficult for D2 Hustlers to actually fight him straight up. We're going to see them need to kite around the edges a little bit more. Yuma's really going to need to pick and choose when he finally commits into those fights, because if he goes a second or two too early, then Lumiere switches all of his attention to him, and then a battle trance troll on top of you, you're just going to die for that PA.
Yeah, he does need some items for sure to become effective this game. I have a hard time seeing Troll here and not feeling bad for it because you're already against a Pangolier, which is such a miserable matchup into the mid late game. Um, it's a little bit odd, but like I said, I think the idea is to just really rely on coming online faster than the Phantom Assassin here. That's the only thing I can think of.
Yeah, and in addition to that, you do have the alacrity. That's something to count on, and you are a little bit more concise. With a lot of these drafts, and especially in the past few days where teams are starting to value that life track hero a little bit more, something that Troll is has really always been able to provide is just that fast move onto either the buildings or the pit. You always have that option available to you if Infamous do start winning some of those early team fights, and that's where the lineup, it starts to make a little bit more sense. But if this game just gets a little bit too chaotic, that's where it really starts to heavily favor D2 Hustlers, where if those plays don't work out, then you give a little bit too much farm over to Yuma. And we've already seen, I think, several times already in this tournament, when Yuma gets the game to himself, he kind of just wins it for the rest of his teammates. Of course, they're there to help him, but it does feel like it becomes the Yuma show in a lot of these D2 games.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, excited to see where this one goes. It is our first game of many today. We have a full stacked lineup for best of twos. Couple double headers actually, if I'm not mistaken, in the middle and at the end of the night. We've got a couple teams doing two series back to back, but we got an important one right now. Again, D2 Hustlers versus Infamous. Both these teams fighting for one of the last positions in the upper bracket here. We see a little bit of a rune fight here. S taking a lot of damage. The slow coming in from the cold snap as well as those axes. And of course the curse is quite a bit. A little bit underestimated there from him. And there's the first blood. Just gets sniped by the troll. That is not a good start for D2 Hustlers.
That's a really rough rune. Of course, you never want to give it up, but I think that's also just Infamous saying you have a Monkey King and a Pango who are going to get kind of these spells that you don't necessarily want. And I think Flea didn't even go for the Primal Spring there. He just didn't really have an opportunity. They really underestimated how survivable they would have been. At least he died. You don't have to play that lane now with like a quarter of your HP, but it still kind of sucks.
Yeah, there's like this scenario where it's like at some point you're almost better off dying because you can't come into lane against the Invoker at a quarter HP. Or like one of your supports just has to like blow their salve on you right away, which also feels pretty bad. But yeah, Lumiere getting first blood here on the troll. He's just going to instantly buy up himself some brown boots and be able to bully out this lane just a little bit more, but also give him mobility against the Pango and the Monkey King because he really doesn't want them to be on top of him, right?
Yeah, and that's where I think Flea and Monster, they just need to do a really good job getting a lot of these double denies going. Of course, you do have the whirling axes to secure a lot of those range creeps, but that's something that A can't really help you with. Silencer just doesn't help you in that respect at all. And Silencer is a little bit of an awkward pick to play versus the Monkey King. Of course, once Flea gets a few of those levels, then I think D2 just are going to start heavily playing on him, but that's where his positioning is just going to be incredibly key. And that's also where this ward from D2 makes a whole lot of sense, because as soon as A tries to make any move over to that small camp, they're going to ignore the wave and just immediately go for him instead.
Yeah. Man, Silencer's early damage output is pretty wild. I remember, oh, nice dodge there on the
Mhm.
mischief. But I was looking at the damage at the rune fight, and Silencer was by far the most at 399 or something like that. So nearly 400
Mhm.
damage being dealt to the Kunkka, whereas all the other heroes were like 200 or less. So that
That's
early
nerf
damage
too.
output is quite strong.
Even got changed in 730D. It's just a really solid hero pick. And you see them kind of struggling in this lane already because they really don't have that many good options. Of course, both of these heroes have very expensive spells and they don't really have good ways of getting their mana back. Of course, they picked up those early sticks because you are laning versus a troll. He's always going to use those whirling axes for the creeps. But at the same time, because you don't have that much mana to play with, A gets the pull off and this lane is just all Lumieres.
Yeah, he's farming very well. 12 and 2. Pango still managing to pull up a few though, so it's not the end of the world for him. Flea getting aggressive here onto Excel's Silencer, and not a whole lot you can do, right? Like they can just kind of walk away as soon as he throws the curse on you.
Yeah. The only issue is that Flea has to stay here, and unfortunately, heroes like the Pango, you want your 4 to leave pretty early on and pretty frequently. Of course, that's the D2 style. Flea leaves, he stacks the camp, and then he takes over mid around that 8-9 minute mark. And if Monster doesn't have that much solo XP, they really need to find plays onto A. Otherwise, you're going to see them kind of stall out with a lot of their damage, especially in that early or late early game. But unfortunately, Flea just kind of has to stick around here and wait for a mistake almost.
Yeah, that's very true. We haven't really talked about the mid or the off lane, but we can talk real quick. Alone versus Excel. Mid, kind of just farming back and forth. It's a pretty standard matchup. We see this all the time. The only thing you really have to be aware of is the level 6 coming in from the Kunkka, right? So at that point, if you're the Invoker, you just have to be, you know, very aware to not die to that combo. But Esk isn't really in any danger, right?
No, not really. Of course, maybe once the Monkey King gets a few more levels, he might make an appearance in the middle lane, but that's also where D2 are kind of stuck in their lanes. No one can come mid, especially if we see maybe some supports rotating from Infamous just to try and take the rune away from S, because of course, Invoker's not going to buy a bottle, so really it doesn't matter for him in any respect. But that's also where Alone needs to be pretty clean with his rotations, and Michael tried for the deny onto that water rune. But as soon as this Invoker stops showing, you're going to push in the mid wave, and you're going to know that he's missing, and I think it's those calls that Esk really needs to be aware of. Of course, you are going to eventually start out-farming this Invoker, because Alone simply can't play in the small camp nearly as easily as the Kunkka can.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Kunkka will definitely just outfarm him. And the Invoker does rely on like early rotations, right? Going for like the double null into an urn. Like he's gonna try and appear and make, you know, make plays happen in the sideline. Speaking of plays happening, Excel going down top here to Fleet and Monster as Lumiere turning around with the whirling axes will be able to grab that Monkey King. Question is, can he actually get Monster? He doesn't have mana for a swashbuckle. Lumiere just not wanting to commit, it seems, at the moment.
No, I think Lumiere's just trying to be a bully, and I
Yeah.
think that's where Monster, he also has a Vanguard queued up, which is a little bit funky, but I think he needs an item like that to actually survive in these lanes, and usually getting that Ring of Health is where you kind of get out of that danger zone for a lot of offlaners, but unfortunately, really, Pango isn't that naturally robust. Of course, that is the kill that they need, though, with Flea staffing a lot of this XP. If they're not making plays on the Silencer constantly, again, that's where you start to fall behind, and that's where your early game looks that much worse. But bottom, Alone, he
Yeah.
rotated in, but they already lost the Mars.
They did, yeah. So I guess maybe a slight miscommunication on Infamous because they were probably trying to bait in the PA, but they end up finding the kill there onto the Mars.
Yeah, and that's where kind of the downside of this Mars hero versus the Abaddon, where as soon as you go for that spear, it immediately gets pushed off, and then you get turned on by Devi and Yuma, and you don't have any save in your
Top lane
coddle
again.
either until you have that 6, but
They
yeah.
get another kill.
Cool.
They just go it a little bit too aggressive on Flea. This time going the way of Infamous. Monster jumps back in with a shield crash, but he doesn't get the kill. Rooted in place by Lumiere.
What a root. If he doesn't get that root, he gets swashed. He most likely dies there. He didn't have
Yeah.
any stick charges on Lumiere. He was more or less dead to rights, but that is really unfortunate because now Lumiere's coming up on level 6. If you use any of your mobility spells on Pango, he just pops the ult and you are dead. There's no way out.
Yeah. Yeah. Super unlucky. I mean, that's 1 point of Berserker's range, so it's a 14% ensnare, but got it when he needed it most, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, it just feels so rough. But
Esk here
that's
to the
where
top
Esk-
lane.
Yeah.
He does
Unknown
get
factor,
scouted, going
but-
for the play here, but Lumiere not going to get caught.
Yeah, it's a nice lane ward as well from Infamous. They
Yeah.
kind of knew that he was already going to look for those rotations, but it's the only way that Lumiere dies, simply in this game. It's not like Yuma is going to get all too active unless he finishes up his treads over in the bottom lane, but without that, it just feels like now they know where the Kunkka is playing, and if the Kunkka's not mid, then of course Flea will take it over, and unfortunately, Flea is just a Monkey King. It feels like, aside from testing maybe some vision about the stacks that Infamous could be looking for, it feels like he is really struggling to find his foothold in this game, because aside from stacking his own camps, and Flea hasn't really gotten the opportunity to, where does this Monkey King actually play? Aside from going bottom, which he very well could go, it just feels like it's a little bit too far out of his reach.
It is, and putting a third hero in the bottom lane doesn't sound too good. Like, PA would definitely want to make that rotation to the off lane to do that, because I don't think you can afford to have the PA fall that far behind in levels when you have someone like Lumiere on the Troll Warlord, who's basically going to have a decently timed Battle Fury and continue farming. Speaking of which, top lane, a 4-hero rotation is going to put Monster in the grave here. Nothing he can really do about this one. Just try and buy a little bit of time, but a tornado from Alone will be the thing that ends it. And it's just really good shot calling here from Infamous. Like, they're just doing a really good job at slowing down Monster's Pangolier, and a lot of it is because they saw the, like we were talking about, the Monkey King in the mid lane. They know he's alone top.
Yeah, and it's not just that. As soon as the Monkey King is mid, he knows the wave isn't going to be pushed in, and there is a monster stack that they would love to take. I think they're going to get all of it, but okay. This kind of makes it feel a little bit better for D2.
Yeah, they managed to scout that with a ward. If they get Alone here, it's also massive as well. There is no global silence quite yet. Boat comes through, does connect. The big EMP doing some work. Rotations in from Michael, but it's going to be Monster as he just gets level 6 on the Pangolier. They will finish off the Invoker. Now chasing for the Silencer here. Would love to give it on over to Yuma, and they do. They grab themselves 2 big kills on top of that massive stack. So they really pull that one back around.
Yeah, just really well played. They get the high ground vision. Of course, we always talk about how you need to be careful of these cliffs, and they just simply didn't know that this stack was being taken, unfortunately. And it's a really nice play from D2, because they know that heroes are going to come back to mid after making the play top, and they find even more. And now it's starting to feel like Flea is finding his plays.
Yeah. Speaking of which, I don't really know how he got the kill, but he does find vision onto Sacred here in the trees, and they're going to continue to try to do so. Maybe they're a little bit, are they? I guess they don't really have any spells. They have no boat for about 25 seconds. Monster, no rolling thunder, and Sacred still got the arena. A nice spear back, finds the Pangolier. Divine Llama able to help him out. Tornado EMP off the mark, and they will just walk away here on D2 Hustlers.
Yeah, and I think that's where Sacred, who didn't have the best time bottom, is kind of dragging his feet a little bit now. Of course, he wants to use the arena on these targets, but unless he finds really either the Monkey King or the PA, and we've already spoken about how that is kind of rough for him to kill in the first place, it doesn't feel like he has that kind of brain dead target to immediately go on once he hits level 6. He's going to really need to pick and choose his fights, and they might even need to wait for items like the Spirit Vessel coming for Alone, but Alone's not even going for it. They're saying that this game is going to be decided a little bit more down the path, and he's going for the Midas immediately, which we haven't seen from a lot of Invokers. Pretty much everyone gets that Spirit Vessel, but I guess you're playing versus Abaddon. Makes a little bit more sense, but at the same time, you just have way less damage now coming from Infamous.
Yeah, it is going to slow down your damage for sure, but it does allow your Invoker to scale a lot better into the mid game, and that's kind of the decision you make between going for the Spirit Vessel or that Midas, right? And you look at Lumiere, I mean, he's 5,100 net worth at the 10-minute mark, like on the dot, and he's constantly climbing. He's about to have his Battle Fury. I mean, he is so farmed on this Troll Warlord, and I don't see anyone inside of D2 Hustlers catching him anytime soon, so a little bit weird that you would like also go for a Midas considering the situation your Troll's in, but I think he just wants to be able to scale with him, and they don't worry too much about taking this late, it would seem.
Yeah, and at the very least, like you said, it keeps you relevant, because you don't really have those flash farming opportunities that a lot of the other spirits have, and you do still want to keep that damage going into that mid game. And look for the play on the monster bottom, but Sacred missed the spear.
Just barely off, yeah.
This play breaks apart. It's unfortunate, but at least they're making this play with the cart, and if Infamous can make these plays with the cart, Lumiere doesn't need to get involved just yet, and this is just a really nice time push. Of course, Sacred's going to tank for it, but oh, he let the last word hit, but oh, Monster.
He just jumps right out of the arena. He's just 3 mana off this Rolling Thunder. They end up canceling the TPs. No, Monster's all alone, and he's going to go down as a result. They say, screw it. We're going to get top tower, Monster. You're dead.
Just a little bit baited there from his teammates, I think. They were so ready to be out on Infamous. Everybody was about to back away, and then they see, I think, 2 cancels come out. So then they're like, no, we got him.
Yeah, that was actually so funny. Just the quick cancel that TP, just how everyone turned around. Monster was not in on that one. He was like, all right, guys, I'm going to Rolling Thunder. Let's go. And they're like, no, 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 no. We're
I
out.
mean, it's even enough time for Sager to just get the second spear, after the spear being the one that kind of allows Monster to survive for that long. But at the very least, you do claim this bottom tower. If you're Infamous, you get Sacred a little bit more of that surplus gold, because he really does need this Blink Dagger, because they don't have a really easy way to make that break towards the mid tower around that 15-minute mark. If he can build himself up for a Blink around that time, then maybe they can look for that play. But that's also where I think Infamous are going for that more farm-oriented style. I think Alone has the full Midas, yeah. Just got to deliver on the courier. Not a bad Midas timing in the
Not at
slightest.
all.
As well as Lumiere. I mean, of course, he had an 11-minute Battle Fury. He is just huge.
Yeah, he is having a great time. They do smoke up on 3 here as they're heading to the bottom lane, trying to wrap around onto Sacred, it seems. Really deep into the lane, so not much you can do about this. Gonna get X into the boat. Well timed there. Even if the stun connects, he's gonna be able to pull him right on back. And Sacred trapped inside the Wukong's command. A quick pick up there for D2 Hustlers. Good wraparound.
Yeah, and that's where it feels like they can make a few more plays than their opponents. Infamous are really stuck with either the Invoker or the Stadium from the Mars, where you can set up with the Kunkka, you can set up with the Rolling Thunder, you can play a little bit further away from each other, where Infamous, they kind of need to run around as this core of hero, because when they split up, I mean, look at Lumiere, he's just a little bit too far out in the same position.
Global Silence comes through. Will be able to peel for him as he still has his ultimate available. Esk. No X for a few seconds. They do not want to chase anymore as they see the TP in there from Michael and potentially more. But they do force global, so, you know, it wasn't for nothing.
Yeah, and now you can actually make that play, and I think, it might just be the cost of doing business here. Don't think he really has a good way out, and just in the perfect spot for Monster to get those bounces.
Yeah, they were definitely going to see if they could catch more there, but... What is this thing called again? The Tumbler's Toy. That's right.
Oh, it's the best tier. It's a funny tier 1, especially
so
if
cool.
Mango has it. You can actually jump in the Rolling Thunder and get some cheeky bounces off, but it's also just a lot of nice good mana for a lot of these low mana HP pool heroes on the D2 side.
I'm a big fan of the pig pole during Rolling Thunder. I know it doesn't actually increase your movement speed, but it is a real kind of mental damage play. You know,
it's threatening.
It's yeah, threatening. You just see the squealing pig running at you as he knocks you into the air doing damage and stuff. You're just like, all right, this guy means business.
Well, and what do you do now if you're D2 Hustlers? You kind of have to bide your time. We're going to get in that same realm where we're waiting for Infamous to make a little bit more of a mistake, but unfortunately, that's where Lumiere having as good a start as he does, you are still waiting for the Battle Fury to be finished on Yuma. If you end up in a farm battle, those 4 minutes where Lumiere has his Battle Fury and you don't on your carry are actually going to come to be quite a few items. And I'm a little bit concerned because both teams don't really have that easy way onto a lot of these towers. Of course, I think the Sacred Blink is going to be where Infamous might look for that big move, and that's why I think D2 are trying to play so heavily on the Mars. But I don't really know how they win a fight where Lumiere actually decides to get involved, and you know he's going to get involved once he has the second item after the Battle Fury, whether or not it's a look at the mid tower or if he's just going to wait for that BKB.
Yeah, that's the big question, right? I know he's going to grab this Yasha and then probably go for the BKB after that. You know, some people opt to just finish the SNY depending on how they're playing the game, but BKB this game feels absolutely essential.
Yeah, there's just nothing you do then. If you dive a little bit too far, you don't have that Kunkka to kind of get you out of that neck of the woods. And I think that's where Esk, not going for the Armlight, getting that immediate Heaven's Halberd, it's really smart itemization. I think he's going to need to play the Waterworks Kunkka, where you get that early Shiva's Guard, you look at the Ags, because without it, they really don't have, I think, the best kiting tools. Of course, every single time that you see heroes like Abaddon getting really close to these fights, you have to be so careful because you are going to be standing in front of heroes that are going to be cleaved by Lumiere, and Lumiere is just not going to care. He's just going to plow through regardless. And I think maybe they look for a few more plays on Flea bottom. I think they've really been a little bit more hesitant to make those same plays, but that's where Sacred Blink, it's time for Infamous to finally make a move.
Yep. Actually smoke up, and it's going to get popped here by Divine Llama, so he is pretty happy about this one. And as they walk up onto the high ground, Tornado comes through. Monster, Rolling Thunder onto the low ground. It's going to be able to hold Mars in place, and it's going to be the Kunk on the backside with the X, the boat. It's going to connect onto both supports. A lot of damage coming through as Yuma jumps forward onto Excel. Silencer able to survive 4 now. Michael going to go down as the Boundless Strike connects onto the Invoker, but it doesn't look like they have a sentry. They do. They drop it down inside the Wukong's command. Esk as well here, and they drop the Arena. The Spear off the mark, though. It's just going to be enough to peel 4 alone. He's able to make his way back to his tier 2 tower, but despite all of that, Infamous only loses 1 hero.
Yeah, they really should have lost Sacred. I think D2 just spread their attention a little bit. They were almost certain they were going to get both the kills on the supports there, and instead they kind of lose track of everything. And Sacred, okay.
Oh, they got Pango. That's the punish right there. Swashbuckle's out, though. Gonna be fine thanks to Divine Llama. And this is what you're talking about. They could have definitely taken down Sacred on the Mars. The PA jumping forward to try and get, you know, the Silencer as well. And like you said, it just spread their numbers too thin. Like their damage was not concise, I guess.
Yeah, I think when that Tidebringer lands from Esk, you get really excited. You see how low both supports are, and unfortunately, that's where Michael, who has the Force Staff, who has the Blinding Light, it's just really obnoxious to ever take down this Keeper Light hero. And unfortunately, when you miss out on kills like that, when the game goes back to this farm fest, Yuma got involved there. Lumiere didn't bat an eye at that mid fight, and he is going for that rush onto the BKB as opposed to getting the Sanj and Yasha first, but you got to be so concerned every single time you draw Yuma away.
Strike there.
Cool.
They're going to see a lot more coming in, though. Divine Llama getting beat here by Lumiere. Ends up popping that borrowed time, and Yuma, he's got to run. Does have a Phantom Strike. He's going to be able to get saved for the moment. A Phonic Shield comes through, but he's stuck inside the arena. The Spear connects as well. Quick double kill there for Lumiere, as now Esk, he's out of mana completely. Does have 20 wand charges, setting up for the Rolling Thunder here on Monster. Can they actually bring down any of these heroes? They're Lumiere. He's still got his ult and a BKB to boot. He's just kind of wasting his time. Now it's going to be the global silence to follow, and Monster nowhere to go. 5 heroes surround him as Flea in the trees here, surviving for the moment. But there's the Spear from Sacred. Manages to find him once again. A Yules is available for Flea here, but it doesn't look like he's going to be able to get out. Surrounded once again. Drops the Wukong's command, but Infamous finding kill after kill on this chase.
They just forced a little bit too much out of Yuma there, and as soon as Devi has to commit the Aphotic Shield for really not an ideal situation, Sacred's immediately there with the Spear, and every single time that D2 Hustlers lose a fight on their side of the map, that's where this troll really comes into full force, where suddenly there is now going to be an Aegis. You lose that top tower into the road so quickly because of how fast this troll takes those objectives, and there's simply no response. And with the BKB finished, I mean, he's just playing at a pace that Yuma can't really match, and that's where if the fight keeps getting brought to him, he kind of has to respond. He can't just let his teammates die. But now Alone's finding picks on the Esk.
Yeah, absolutely. And Flea just standing here looking, doesn't really know what he can do. Drops a Boundless Strike for a moment, but it's just a kill squad here from Infamous. These 5 heroes rotating constantly, finding kill after kill, and it's going to try and net them another objective here in the mid lane. Tier 1 tower under siege. They dropped that fortification, but it's just temporary. Lumiere's going to shred right through this. This guy's level 17.
He really doesn't care. Of course, it sucks because you are just giving them glyphs back, but that's where I think Lumiere doesn't even need to go. This is timed up again so perfectly because it's right on top of the carts. And Alone, I think he's looking for a Divide top. I think they caught a glimpse of him with the Sentry, but that's also where Sacred's hunting Yuma.
Oh, he's managed to find him. He's got no blink target outside of the arena. The Spear comes through, and Alone trying to close the gap here. The question is, can Divide Llama make it in time? But it doesn't look like it. Sacred gets himself another kill. Beautiful play from him here on the Mars. Woo!
Ooh, what a TP. Whew.
That was very close. He almost got him. They actually smoke up here on 2. Heading back top. Looks like they want to get Sacred. I honestly don't like... These heroes don't have the damage to kill Mars.
Oh.
They're gonna try. But he's in a corner there. There's no real good spot to go for this initiation. And now the global silence trying to just turn this fight around. Monster, that Rolling Thunder has ended, and they are gonna do what they can to stay on top of him. Sacred with the body blocks does have a Spear, but ends up maybe regretting not using it there. Divine Llama has borrowed time. Boat's gonna come through, will connect onto Alone, but it's Lumiere on the backside as he has now joined the fight, chasing after the Pangolier, disarmed. for the moment. Devi Llama continuing to disengage. Looks like he will make it. All right, D2 Hustlers managed to escape despite all odds.
Yeah, and it is an escape, and of course, they make that play because Flea is getting the split push game going.
Ooh.
Unfortunately, the spear almost connected on him bottom, but they make that play knowing that the troll had already TP'd bottom, so they go for the smoke on those heroes really in desperation, if anything else, but oh, that is close. Okay, a little bit scary for Flea. Oh, wait, the bounce?
Hey, is he
Okay.
out? He's out, right? He's not out. That is an arena, baby. That's going to stun him down. Spear in one. Yules will come through from Flea, though. He just doesn't have a way to escape, though. He's just going to try and waste as much time as possible. Sunstrike on the money.
Give it to the Invoker as well. Just helping Alone's game even more, even though it feels like really the only kill he hasn't been participating in. He's just been so active on this Invoker, and unfortunately, any hero lost on their side of the map just means that now Lumiere, of course, still have Glyph on the D2 Hustlers side. They did just kill that tier 1 tower mid, so it did refresh, but I don't think Lumiere really cares. He's got 2 minutes left on this Aegis. If they do get the Glyph out, they know that they're going to be able to force D2 immediately back towards the high ground, so almost even preemptively Glyph their wave here, but D2 can't afford to Glyph their outer towers because they know it's just going to be Lumiere being too fast on the objectives, and unfortunately, the timer, it's almost up. It feels like they need to make some play with this Yuma BKB, and if they lose that fight, the game is probably going to follow because Lumiere is also making incredible progress towards that MKB, and that is the end game for him. Once he gets that, that's where Yuma can't show his face. His teammates need to win the fight before he actually decides to engage.
Yeah. Yeah, that BKB or the MKB that comes out from the Troll Warlord is such a game-winning item here, right? Like there's not a lot that you can do about that once you've picked it up. The survivability from this Phantom Assassin, it just becomes non-existent.
And look at that. They don't even Glyph it. They know exactly what happens if they use it on the tier 2 tower, but Esk without a BKB yet, Alone finds another, and everybody's going to come.
Well played there on the ice wall, just keeping him in place for the rest of the team to finally show up for this one. Boat's going to come out, but attempted TP, not going to happen. Sunstrike off the mark, but it is just a slow and painful death here for this Kunko once again. Gets picked up by Sacred.
Yeah, and I mean, they have to go for these plays. They have to somehow find farm onto Yuma. Of course, the only reason anybody was up there was because Yuma was farming that side of the map, and oh man, this would just be a nightmare if Yuma gets his BKB immediately forced out of him, but they're trying to be cheeky on Alone here.
He's going to find the PA, drop the ice wall, and found the strike off the mark. Lumiere is rotating in now, and this is when Yuma's got to be careful. If he gets this in snare, and strike down to the far side, but Invoker does reveal him with the Sunstrike. They know exactly where Yuma's heading. He's got to keep trying to chase with Flea, but Alone's got their number, man. There's the global silence that comes through. PA doesn't even bother with the BKB. She knows she can't afford to pop it as they both go down.
Unfortunately, you don't pop it there, you still die. Of course, now if you Glyph the creep wave, you probably won't get that much damage on your tier 3 tower, but at the same time, Yuma just keeps on getting caught dead to rights, and Esk just respawned. It's not like the Kunkka could have made any counterplay, and of course, Monster is trying his best to cut these creep waves, but that's where Infamous are doing what a lot of teams have struggled with. They're placing these lane wards, they're looking for the heroes making breaks for those creep waves, and they keep on finding them. It's just a problem that D2 don't really have a really good inherent way of solving, and again, they're looking for Monster because they know that's the only place on the map he could possibly be playing, and no TP for 19. They might just track this one down.
We're going to try and find him. Sacred, he did get vision for a moment, and yeah, we'll go ahead and blink. Sacred, he's guessing right. He thinks he knows. He gets the spear. It's on the mark, and now Pangolier in some trouble. Does have that roll up into the Rolling Thunder and TP's away, but I guess some wasted time as they are going to go ahead and try and get aggressive here onto Infamous. Lumiere stuck inside the Wukong's command. Does have that BKB and his ultimate available. Will just pop the BKB to make sure that he gets out of this one. Now Excel on the silencer, getting chased down here. A couple auto attacks from Yuma. As long as he gets a crit, should be able to secure it, but he just doesn't get lucky today as the disarm from Coddle and the 4 staffs out. Excel's going to live.
Yeah, and you want that play. You want to make it knowing that two heroes, both the Invoker and the Mars, were sitting around trying to kill Monster for such an extended period of time. And although you get the BKB out from Lumiere, you would have loved to take his head. But unfortunately, MKB's done. Lumiere's ready. As soon as they go into these fights, that's where if D2 Hustlers get ahead of themselves, they don't have the ring, they don't have the boat, then Yuma just immediately dies. Regardless of whether or not he has the root, I think the next two items from Lumiere are going to be important. But okay, Monster.
He's just got the roll up, gets the blink, but he actually blinks right under a courier. Unfortunately for him, is now he's up on the high ground. They gotta know.
Knock him down. Cool.
Oh, there it is. The Will-O-Wisp to pull him back, and Lumiere gonna make quick work of him with that double damage rune.
I mean, D2, they're playing their outs. They're, at the very least, they're trying to drag these creep waves over to the dire side of the map. If they can keep it in Infamous's territory, these deaths do mean a little bit less, because Lumiere isn't able to just immediately go up to those buildings unless those creep waves are set up. And he actually does have a creep wave set up mid, but he still has to walk there. And they don't want to give their opponents any of the farm they're finding in these side lanes, and he's just going to walk onto Yuma.
Yeah.
Oh, this is...
Nice global silence comes through. He's gonna just attempt the TP, but does he have the damage? Almost barely getting out there on just 200-ish HP. They find Excel on the backside of the fight here with Kunkka, but Lumiere, he is still hungry. Is he gonna see Esk? It doesn't look like it. It will just fog him on the tree. Nice ward here. So Lumiere's gonna walk into the Roche. He's gonna know what's up.
This is such a sick position from D2. If there was ever a chance for them to go for possibly the steal, it would be now, but you see Lumiere.
I don't think they actually know Lumiere walked into the Roche pit. Like, the ward vision that they had, like, barely misses. Michael's gonna get the D ward. I mean, your Coddle somewhat... Your Coddle's fine. You just got the Roche for nothing, and now Sacred's gonna find Flea here up on the high ground, going for the TP out. That Spear absolutely gonna cancel it. Tornado from downtown, looking him through the trees, but doesn't actually connect. Esk will survive, as well as Divine Alarm. Does he have a TP? He does.
Man, oh man, they're just finding nothing. They're going for these split push plays constantly, but then every single time this PA shows on one side of the map, it's an alone TP, it's a sacred TP, and then you're running back. Yuma is just getting chased out of every single farming opportunity he finds, and if he gets his BKB forced out of him bottom, this is just a horrible situation.
I mean, I feel like he's gonna have to BKB this. Yeah, alone. Jumps right on him. Yeah, BKB into the TP home, and not having that for the high ground defense is gonna very much cost them.
Everything is about Esk now. He's the only one who can actually do anything to delay here. Of course, you do have the spam coming in from the Pango as well, but oh, that's an early glyph. Lumiere's just going to start to beat into it. Still got to be careful, but he's got the Aegis. He really doesn't mind getting any damage here. They're trying to slow him up, but just look at it melt.
Yeah, I mean, they're doing what they can to Will-O-Wisp, holding him in place for the moment, making it pretty frustrating, but there's a sick arena follow-up. They do actually not get the spear there for some reason. The Will-O-Wisp interaction a little bit weird, but they take down two. Anyway, buybacks in from both. Abaddon goes down, the third buyback to follow. Everything from Infamous has been used. Lumiere just pops the battle trance, wants to focus on these buildings, but now turning his attention over to the heroes, will end up just backing out of this Wukong's command. Sick force staff there. Monster continuing to roll through these enemies, gets the roll up, but he's just stuck in the wall. Trying to make it up onto the high ground. Sunstrike on the mark, but still manages to survive. And Lumiere, he's back to business, focusing down these barracks to be able to take one, but no one on D2 Hustlers has really been able to connect with a kill here. Infamous still sitting fine alone. Aeon just procs, but he's able to get on top of you, with the BKB just comes off of cooldown. Phantom Knives comes through, broken here on the Mars. The EMP not gonna do much of anything, but they manage to just walk away. The Troll, he's just too damn strong, and a second Will-O-Wisp comes through, holding Monster into place. Swashbuckles onto the other side, going for the roll-up, but they can still beat you down, sir. You gotta run. Holding Lumiere in place with the Yule Scepter, now stuck underneath the tier 4s, but again, he's got an Aegis. He can get saved here. Phantom Knives once again, the break, it's there, the damage comes through, Boundless Strike. He's so close to dying, sniped finally by a miscoil, but it cost you your Phantom Assassin. She's got no buyback in Lumiere. He's coming back with a vengeance, trying to get on top of Esk. He's been disarmed for the moment. The boat comes through. He's able to take down the Invoker, but bashed up and brought down by this Troll. A costly defense, and the Troll Warlord is still beating your barracks. Monster going for the roll-up, or rather the Rolling Thunder, trying to get on top of the Troll here. Invoker bot back into the fight. Just one more auto attack's all you need to take down this Monster Pangolier. But he makes it up onto the high ground. He gets to jump away, but you lost Flea on the Monkey King. Three heroes dead, only one with buyback.
I feel like the GG might be coming pretty soon here. Of course, they have the tier 2 top, so they do have to actually just hit the tier 4 towers, but man, oh man, Lumiere is just way too massive at this point. Range bash on Esk, no less. And Monster, okay, they're gonna start beating him, but as soon as you get those stacks, oh, what a spear from Sacred.
That was
A one
so
kind of
sick on
message, but
timing. That
okay,
was
they
so
got him
sick on the
anyway.
timing.
But now, no glyph. I think it's just dead.
Yeah, I think that's probably got to be the GG. We only have Yumi here on the Phantom Assassin. You know, does have that BKB available, but a 1v5 near impossible. And they will go ahead and claim game 1 here on Infamous.
Man, what a tight game from them. They bided their time so long. Of course, they knew they had kind of the ahead in the exchange. They knew that they got their items just a little bit faster, and I think they just did a really good job of forcing Yuma off those sides of the map. He had to respond so many different times to fights that really he needed to go to because the rest of his heroes weren't really providing damage. I think that's the one thing that D2 didn't actually pick up in these heroes. They were so reliant in this PA and really the early game coming in from the Kunkka to finish off a lot of those early game plays. And unfortunately, when your PA has to show up to every single fight, you're going to fall behind a player like Lumiere, who does not bat an eye when his teammates are skirmishing and losing heroes right off the bat. But unfortunately for D2, Infamous didn't really lose anyone. Everybody was able to kind of just play the safe style of Dota where they have so many kills, but just not many deaths. No one really ever got picked up. It felt like Infamous were always starting fights on their own terms. It felt like they were always finding the perfect heroes at the beginning of those engagements. They were just way too clean. It felt bulletproof from them. And then once Lumiere started getting involved, you've got an item and a half on head of Yuma who can't go for the fight. And he just has to play the split push style of Dota that unfortunately D2 Hustler's lineup is not geared for at all. It just feels like Infamous played exactly to their speed.
Yeah, no, you're exactly right. I mean, the right from the beginning, Lumiere grabbing first blood, it wasn't that big of a deal in the grand scheme of the game, but it's just another thing where like you see this troll warlord from minute one have such a sick game, finished up 9-0 and 13, like never really pressured in this top lane, felt really solid, and it's not really like a fault of Monster and Flea. I think they did a pretty decent job in the lane. It's just Lumiere on a troll warlord. It is an extremely strong hero in the lane, getting that super early battle fury. And you know, the free alacrity, and we talked about this in the draft. One of the things, amplifying your core, giving them basically a free item. I mean, this alacrity just absolutely making this troll warlord such a menace. And they close out game 1 pretty convincingly. You know, it is a best of 2, so we've got game 2 coming up here with D2 Hustlers. What's got to change? Is this a draft thing, or is this just like they got to switch up how they play the map? Like, this seems just like an outclass all around.
Of course, it's game 2 in your best of 2 series. You're going to most likely have second pick because you have choice. I think we just got to see a completely different strategy out from them. I understand what they were going for, but at the same time, I think Infamous just counterpicked them at really every opportune moment for them. I think the Lone Invoker as well was just so solid.
So
He
sick.
played so well. He was so good at making those plays just consistently throughout the map. But really, the last pick of the Silencer in that first phase, followed by the last overall Troll, I think they fell behind so far in those lanes and then kind of just had to play reactively to what their opponents were picking up, and then it just kind of didn't mesh for them. I think game 2, we're going to see them have second pick. We're going to see a different strategy, but just get something that I think you've run in the past. I think Flea was specifically, he kind of got his footing around that 10-minute mark when we did see that breakdown in lanes where Esk was finally able to get a little bit active, but it was a much slower game and they weren't really able to bank on the benefit that Flea usually gives to your team, mainly securing your mid lane and giving Yuma those huge stacks, as well as Yuma just not being on a hero to really accentuate that big advantage that usually you play around if you're D2.
Yeah. Right on, man. I'm excited. Game 2 will be coming in just a moment, everyone. So stay tuned. We got a lot of Dota here today on the BTS Pro Series Season 9. So enjoy some sick tunes. We'll see you in a bit.